Hi, it's Carl Brower, and I'm standing next to the all-new 2026 Nissan Leaf. This is the first real serious redesign of the Nissan Leaf in its 15-year history. It was introduced in 2011, and it really was the first true high-volume, accessible electric vehicle for the masses. Yeah, you had things like the GM EV1 and the Honda EV Plus, and even that first generation Toyota RAV4, plus whatever that Tesla Elise thing was. But none of those vehicles were sold in high volumes, and they certainly weren't accessible to the average consumer. The Nissan Leaf it set a new standard for price and range for electric vehicles at the time, though it also suffered from things like battery degradation and not really as good a real-world mileage as it was claiming, at least early on. Nissan's continued to evolve it, and it got better when the second generation hit, but this is the third generation, all new version. Now it looks much more like a crossover, and Nissan calls it a crossover, even though it doesn't have all-wheel drive and it sits a little lower overall. It definitely feels like a more modern, contemporary vehicle, and it will get over 300 miles on the base trim. And it is available in that base form for just under $30,000. There's actually an even lower trim one coming that's going to have a smaller battery pack, but we'll get into all that and more as we take a closer look at the all-new 2026 Nissan Leaf. Let's talk a little bit about this new Leaf's design. It actually sits a little lower, as mentioned, than the previous version, yet Nissan wants to call it a crossover now as opposed to a hatchback like it was called before. But you can't get all-wheel drive, at least for now, and it doesn't have much ground clearance. But I'll admit, it does have crossover-like proportions, so we're gonna let that one slide. Some of the other things you notice is this theme, what they're calling the 2-3 theme, which, believe it or not, is actually what Nissan means in Japanese. It's 2-ni-san 3, Nissan 2-3. And so they've used that theme in several areas of the car. You can see it in the taillight shape, and you can see it on the interior and some of the other areas. Of course, it's interesting because the taillights have to be symmetrical, so one side might say Nissan, but I think the other side must say San-ni. Anyways, it's an attractive looking car. I like this particular blue color that we're driving here, but all of the cars look very good. It's definitely an improvement over the previous style. It looks more contemporary, and it has had a reduction in aerodynamic drag as well. It used to be a 0.29 coefficient of drag. Now this newest one is a 0.26. And people might not realize, but when you're down below like 0.30 coefficient of drag, every tenth is a lot. It's kind of like going over 200 miles an hour. Every mile per hour over 200 takes a lot more horsepower. It takes a lot to reduce drag once you're below about 0.30 or 0.29 coefficient of drag. So it's impressive they were able to make it that much more efficient. And that kind of goes with really the theme of the whole car when you think about it. A 75 kilowatt hour battery, that's kind of the main battery they're going to sell in this market, isn't a very big battery, which you would think isn't a good thing. But it means that the vehicle's lighter because of the smaller battery. And it also means that with the lightweighting work they did for the integrated drivetrain, where they were able to cut some weight, and then the lower height and overall greater aerodynamics, the car can get 300 miles or more of range, at least in the base S Plus trim, with a 75 kilowatt hour battery. Most batteries have to be bigger to do that. And what I've noticed now that I've been driving it for a while is that this is not a fast car. You're not people are so used to these electric cars being quick, and they get out of electric cars. Ooh, it's fast, it's fast, it's fast. Yeah, guess what? When you have instant torque, it makes a vehicle feel fast. They've tuned this power delivery to not be particularly fast. This car doesn't, I'll just be honest, feel particularly fast. You floor it, you're kind of like, what happened to my EV acceleration? But the base model, which starts at about $31,000, gets over 300 miles range. So I would argue at this point in time, it's much more impressive to have a $30,000, 300 plus mile range EV than it is to have a fast EV. Every EV is fast, but not every EV gets 300 miles range and starts at around $30,000. And that's clearly the philosophy that Nissan took with this vehicle. Smaller, lighter, lower cost, but still delivering a solid range that is going to appeal to most people. Now, we talked about price. Price for the base S Plus model with the bigger battery is around $31,000 with destination, and then it goes up to around $40,000 for the Platinum Plus. There is this base non-Plus S trim that's not available yet, and it's only going to have a 52 kilowatt hour battery, which would suggest that it's probably only going to have about, well, it's going to be 2/3 the battery size, and so it might go 200 miles if the 75 kilowatt hour battery gets you 300 miles. And you will lose some range. You go below 300 miles if you step up from the S Plus trim, because you go from the 18-inch wheels that are steel to alloy wheels from S Plus to SV, and you also get things like heated seats and the Google built in and the bigger screen, which I suggest people should get. This vehicle has about a 12.3-inch screen on the base models, but you can get up to a 14-inch screen if you get the SV Plus or higher trim levels. And having driven the car and interacted with the screens, they're very nice. The driver information screen is very informative. There's all these different settings you can put it through, and it's very vibrant and it's got great graphics. A couple other features to note about this new Nissan Leaf: it's got 2 steering settings, 3 acceleration settings, and 4 regenerative brake settings. There's a lot of variability on how you drive the vehicle. You can play around with it. It's very easily, because you can see all these different settings and a lot of other information in that really great driver information screen, that nice big 14-inch screen that's very vibrant. And I played around with it. The braking has paddle shifter controls similar to other EVs that have been out there. So you can up and down the braking level, the regenerative braking level, very quickly and easily. Quickly change it, whether you're going up a hill or coming down a hill or how steep of a hill it is. Very easy to adjust the regenerative braking. As mentioned, it's not the fastest car, even in its most sporty settings, but it does handle and ride very well. And there is a multi-link suspension, and Nissan said that they were definitely tuning it for more comfortable and refined ride quality. And you combine that with the typical refinement of an electric drivetrain. There's no explosions going off. Car's very quiet. It does have a very nice premium feel. Nissan decided to go with 2 charging ports on the new Leaf, one on the driver's side, one on the passenger side. This driver's side one is meant for level 2 charging, the plug that we've all seen so many times before. On the passenger side, they've got the North American charging standard that Tesla's been using for years, which, yes, means you can now access the Tesla supercharger network with your new Nissan Leaf. One thing I would want to make clear about the new Nissan Leaf is that it is still a compact vehicle. It may not look like a compact hatchback anymore and look more like a compact crossover, but notice in all those descriptions, it's compact. It still is. I've got this front seat adjusted for me, and I'm barely sitting behind myself and fitting here at 6 feet tall. This really wouldn't be that comfortable. There's not even a lot of foot room under the seat for my shoes to slide under. If you're looking to buy a people mover, and those people are going to be adults, and there's more than 2 of them on a regular basis, full-sized adults, this could be a bit tricky. Now, it's pretty impressive. If you fold these rear seats down, you do end up with 55 cubic feet of cargo space behind the front row. The hatchback design does give it a fair amount of utility, but the specific design and breakup between front and rear seat passenger space leaves rear seat passengers a little lacking. Keep that in mind if you're going to transport full-sized adults on a regular basis. Let's talk about the interior design and controls for this new 2026 Nissan Leaf, which I'm actually a huge fan of. Now, you've got the 14-inch displays here, both for the gauge cluster and driver information, as well as your central touchscreen. Of course, you can have Apple CarPlay, but you can also have an ability to jump right back into the Nissan components of this control system and look at basic things like nav and phone, or go right back into CarPlay if you'd like. Dedicated climate controls, yay. Dedicated volume knob, yay. Transmission controls here, nice big, takes a second to get used to where they're at. Once you're there, you're good. Here's your driving mode button, toggle switch. You can quickly jump through those. And then when you get back down to the actual steering wheel, I gotta tell you, I'm a huge fan of this gauge cluster layout. I mean, look at how rich this screen appears. The resolution, the vibrancy, and the wide range of information that you can scroll through. It's pretty fabulous. A lot of different elements that you can look at on here. Great nav display right in front of the wheel here for you. You got audio information, you got all your driver assistance, you got a large number of settings that you can jump through. This is pretty cool. I gotta tell you, the screens keep getting better in cars, but the screen in this car looks really as good as pretty much any screen out there at any price point. Hugely impressed. And then you do have your controls throughout the steering wheel here, both for your driver assistance systems as well as audio, phone, and everything else. Very impressive. And don't forget, this does have the Google built in. So if you've got a Google sign-in and a Google Play and Google Music and Calendar, it's all going to come in and work really well for you too. Nicely done, Nissan. I give you big kudos on not just the comfort of these front seats, but the layout and effectiveness of all of your primary and secondary and most advanced controls. Paddle shifters here for your braking, regenerative braking. Nicely done. Let's also take a look at the interior design of this vehicle. It's got the slightly higher grade materials on the seats here. The seats themselves are very comfortable, plenty of room up front at least. Second row is a little tighter, but you do have, of course, the advanced tech to go from clear to opaque on your sunroof system up there. Works pretty well. It's pretty easy to do. I'm a fan of the idea that you can control it so easily, and it's cool how they've got this little leaf thing that comes up when you're halfway through, making it opaque or clear. So good control systems and really a very roomy and comfortable front seating area. Overall, I'm impressed by the all-new 2026 Nissan Leaf. Let's be honest, we live in a world, or at least a country right now, the US, that's not going to be super friendly to EVs for the next few years. We're losing the $7,500 federal incentive to buy them, and we're also losing a lot of the government regulations and fines that come into play if you don't produce them as manufacturers. We're going to see a drop in EV sales and demand over the next few years. There's no getting around that. This car is going to hit the market right as that is happening. We're going to see how many of these they can sell before the end of September when the incentive goes away, but I think Nissan's rushing to get as many out there as you can, because truthfully, if you got a base S Plus for around $31,000 plus a $7,500 credit, that's a pretty good deal for what you're getting. And even the mid-grade SV Plus and Platinum Plus for up to $35,000 to $40,000 with $7,500 off, you're getting a lot of EV for the money. It's going to be a challenge for every automaker, including Nissan, to sell electric vehicles after that incentive goes away. I think the most likely way to sell those vehicles, though, the best chance is going to be low-priced EVs that deliver a lot of value for the money. And honestly, just as when this car came out 15 years ago and it was kind of the first real EV, I would say this is probably going to be one of the most compelling EVs in the new electric vehicle world we're going to all be living in soon, where the cars are going to have to live and die on their own attributes and not be helped out by government incentives. Let's see how the Nissan Leaf does in that world. I think it'll actually do pretty well.